Welcome.
We ain't afraid of no ghosts.
This is your number one podcast for ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties. Bringing you everything you need to know about things that go bump in the night and interviewing the personalities behind them. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Now, here are your hosts, your ghost hosts, Scott and Julie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paranormal Project. Happy Wednesday. Hi, Julie. How are you today?
I'm good, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, you know who's here with us. We have a guest that has also been a co-host on a couple of occasions. And I think you were doing wedding planning or something.
When I lost my voice, the very first show that we did, I woke up with laryngitis. And then the second one, yes, I was doing wedding planning.
Yeah, that's it.
A little happier, yes.
So Chris Brown is here as a guest. He doesn't have to think, which is really great. But he is a psychic medium. And Chris, Chris and I are doing a show together at the Hawthorne Hotel in Salem in November. And I thought it'd be really fun to have him on the show and talk about what we're doing and, all things mediumship. How did you come into it and talk about all of that kind of stuff. So why don't we bring out Chris? Chanel is there he is. I see something whirling in the background. I was kind of concerned because he's gone. That's it.
Oh,
that's
no.
All right. No, you know what? That's what happens when you live in Maine. And you don't know what the Wi-Fi is going to be like. He'll be back.
He will be back.
He will be back. I'm not worried. Let's talk a little bit about Chris, right? Because you just had a reading with Chris over the weekend. He did.
I did. Chris did a benefit for the James House in New Hampshire, and he did a gallery reading. And as most people know, maybe some people don't, a gallery reading, you're not guaranteed to get a reading. But two people came through for me that Chris made contact with. One was my husband, and the other was my mother. So it was really, really exciting. My mother doesn't come through too often. I know my husband's kind of around, and Chris actually did make contact with my husband last year. So sort of like, thinking, Jimmy, stop hogging the limelight. Let some other people get in here.
Now, did your mother bring her ribbon candy with her? That's what I want to know.
She did not bring her ribbon candy this time, no.
Chicken with ribbon candy and her mom, which was really interesting. So, Chris, welcome to the show. It's good to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Chris.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, we were having some time while you came back.
Yeah, I was having some technical difficulties, but I think I'm good now.
Yeah, that's
Great.
awesome. That's great. So, Chris, I was telling everybody about what we're doing. So we are doing a show in November at the Hawthorne Hotel. That's November 3rd at 7:00. And we're going to give everyone a chance to get tickets if they want to. We'll tell them where they can get tickets. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about mediumship, how we met, how you came into this. One thing that I wanted to just point out, and you and I talked before the show, last week and quite a bit before that, you have so generously offered to give away a free reading. And I'm going to do that as well, right? So we're going to give away 2 free readings. So what we're going to ask you to do is we're going to ask you to text a number. I'm going to put it up on the screen in just a minute. Text the number, text the word reading to the number we're going to put on the screen. And it's going to give you the opportunity to download a quick little ebook that I put together. It's free, but it's just how to prepare for your mediumship reading. That's free. You can have that and keep that. But if you do that, that will enter you in the drawing to win a free reading. One from me and one from Chris. And we're going to put that on the screen here in just a minute. And where are we here? And actually, you know what? I'm going to run it right across.
Live radio.
The
Live
joys of live
Wi-Fi.
radio.
I guess I'm showing my age.
You can still see me and hear me okay?
You're doing great, Chris. Yes,
All
it's
right.
all good.
So it seems like we lost Scott, but that's all right.
Oh, yes, we did. Okay. Well, that's unusual. His Wi-Fi is usually pretty good.
All right.
But anyway, so Chris, let's talk. Let's talk a little bit about the gallery reading that you did on Saturday.
Sure.
And I was telling people that are listening that you were kind enough to offer a gallery reading for the James House.
That's
and so basically, the James House is. Do you remember how old the James House is? It's going way back.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it was at least from early 1700s, if not earlier than that.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, but it goes back a ways.
It really does. Let's say a few hundred years.
Sure, yeah.
And there's a small group of people that are really trying to preserve it. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful old building, but needs lots of work, needs lots of love. So they're always looking for contributions and people to help out with things. So Chris, you were kind enough to volunteer to do 2 gallery readings, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. And I was lucky enough that I got 2 readings, which was great. I mean, you were, it was, as usual, you were right on top of things. It was crazy,
Oh, thank you.
And the first one, I was sort of like, I think that's me. And then the second one, I really felt guilty.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Chris, I think that's my mom.
Yeah. I remember you saying too, being like, I'm sorry to the crowd. And I was like, no, this totally happens. Sometimes if I'm going and I'm clicking and connecting, it's an open invitation for any of your loved ones to want to come through. So it's really up to them. It's not up to me.
Right, exactly. Yep. And, honestly, it would make sense because I'm sure my mother's right there hanging out with my husband, just prodding him along. I'm sure they're having a good time there. She was, she was always a jokester, and he had a very, very dry Irish sense of humor, which she really enjoyed. So I'm sure they had a lot of fun that afternoon.
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So what else have you been up to lately?
Really not too much. Things have been a little slow. I've been kind of I've helped out at the fort a few times this summer. At the Fort Knox, so right here in Maine. I'm part of a team called 207 Paranormal. We help out with investigations there. So I've been doing some of those things. I've been doing just private readings as well. Just trying to, keep plugging away and keep working. And like I said, the opportunities have come up for the James House. So I was able to do a gallery reading there. And I got a couple of, the Hawthorne Hotel event with Scott. It's going to be great. That's in November. So it's going to be really, really fun. So I've been trying to just stay busy and keep working.
Yeah, I hear you. Exactly. And it's funny because you said, oh, not a whole lot, but then we have a whole list of things that you are doing.
I know.
I understand completely. Yeah. But the Hawthorne looks like a lot of fun. I'm really excited. Have you been to the Hawthorne Hotel? The venue?
I've been outside of it. I've never been inside. Well, no, I can't say that. We went to me and my wife Kayla. We went to Nathaniel's, which is the restaurant that's right across.
Yes.
Funny enough that we had a couple of paranormal experiences in Nathaniel's. We were in there, and I was just kind of sitting there, and I look up, and one of the chandeliers was just kind of, rocking back and forth, and I couldn't quite explain why. And I was like, "Look at that!" I was like, "That's kind of odd." And then, sure enough, we were sitting there, and Kayla went to go fix her hair, and her fork flew right across the table. No,
I have to tell you, I've been to the Hawthorne many, many times. Matter of fact, I had my daughter's bridal shower at the Hawthorne.
Perfect.
But I've been there many times to go to the restaurant, to the tavern there. I live locally. I'm just a 15-minute drive away.
Okay.
And there are some days when I go into that hotel and, it's just, everything's fine. Everything's normal. And then other days I go in and the energy is just through the roof. Absolutely amazing. And, you can't explain those things. We don't know why that is.
Right.
My daughter is a very gifted psychic medium. She does not use her mediumship at all. She really doesn't want to have anything to do with it. I wish that she would, because she's incredibly powerful. She was actually at the Hawthorne Hotel with some friends in the tavern, excused herself, went into the restroom, and had communication with a full body apparition. in the
Wow.
ladies' room at the Hawthorne, to the point that she came out and her husband, her fiance at the time, he said she just looked like something had happened. What happened? And she said, I'll tell you later. And he said, no, tell me now. And she said, well, you're not going to believe this. She said, I saw a full body apparition and almost had a conversation with him.
Oof.
He was telling her his name. And so I'm not surprised because she's like a beacon. She really attracts energies. So I wasn't surprised at that, but she doesn't want to have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
So people that are thinking about coming to the Hawthorne, thinking about going to the gallery reading there, I'll tell you, first off, the gallery reading that Chris and Scott are going to do is going to be great. But the Hawthorne itself is just a venue, just a location that is just off the charts. It's a beautiful, beautiful old hotel. The energy in there is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So really excited about that. Yeah.
I can't wait.
So let me ask you, are you going to be staying overnight there?
That's the thing. We've been trying to get rooms, but so far everything's been booked up. So I'm going to try to call tomorrow and just say, hey, if there's any cancellations or anything, please let me know. But that's our goal, is to try to stay the night at the Hawthorne.
You know what? Let me call the events coordinator tomorrow, because she may have a little bit of an in that we don't have if we pick up the phone. So let me just give her a call and see if she can foresee that there'd be a room available. So
That would
I'll
be
check
great.
on
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, no problem. That's great. Honestly. Yeah. So I don't know what happened to Scott.
Yeah, he's
I'm not
disappeared.
sure. Maybe a wormhole. I don't know.
A portal opened up and he got sucked inside of it, right?
Exactly. So, Chris, while we're waiting for Scott to come back, why don't we talk some more about you and talk about what, a few of the things that you and Scott had talked about. And one of them is your mediumship. When did you realize that this was something that you had this gift?
So it all started kind of, I was doing paranormal investigating, and I always, as a kid, I always kind of said I felt like I knew when a ghost was around. I would say like, oh, I get goosebumps, or I'd get the feeling. I just kind of knew that there was another presence or there was another energy around me. So I kind of had that when I was a kid, but I didn't really have any reference point to what a psychic was or what a medium was. I really didn't know that terminology or what that meant. But years later, when I was investigating, I went to a place called the Parsonsfield Seminary. And I was in the attic, and I was just like, I kept feeling like a young boy spirit was playing games with me. And I kept feeling that really like strongly. And I was like, no, this can't be real. It's gotta be my imagination. This can't be the case. But sure enough, I went home and I YouTubed the same location, and a medium that was on that team had said, there's a young boy spirit here and he wants to play with me and he wants to play games. And I was like, oh, that's what I felt too.
Hi guys, remember me?
Hi, Scott Allen.
Good joke.
Good to have you here.
Two mediums and an empath walk into a bar and everything stops working. That's kind of what's going on. Like everything shut down. I had to reset the rotor, and I'm hardwired in. So
Oh wow.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I didn't want to interrupt you. I wanted to.
Glad to have you back.
What I was going to do here is put this on the screen so people could text the there we go. I'm going to let it scroll across the bottom and show. There we go. Text reading 833-269-4769. You're going to get a reading, one with me, one with Chris. And we're going to draw these next week. Chris won't be here, but of course we'll let him know. Our guest next week is also a medium and a shaman, and we're going to have her be here when we pull these names out. So text reading to that number that's on the bottom of the screen. Next Wednesday, we're going to pull it out of a hat, and you'll get a reading. There'll be two of them, one for Chris and one with me. And also, if you go to scottallen.net and go to events, you'll see our tickets for the Hawthorne Hotel Gallery event. All tickets are 20% off right through next Wednesday. So next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, they go back to full price. So that way, if you're here, if you're listening to this in the UK on Monday or wherever, and you want to, get a reading or come to the gallery event, you can get the tickets there. And readings are 20% off until Wednesday. That's what I was going to say. The readings are 20% off until next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And you can book those with me or with you. And then the gallery event, the tickets are for sale on the website at scottallen.net. Phew. All right.
All right.
We'll come back to that. All right.
Chris was talking about his mediumship, and when he first came in, realized that something's going on here. So, Chris, I'll let you continue, or maybe give it a real quick summary from the beginning.
Yeah, sure. Like I was just kind of wrapping up. I was at the Parsonsfield Seminary. I felt very strongly that there was a spirit that was communicating with me, like I said earlier. And, sure enough, I was able to get my feelings validated, which was really crazy. And so ever since that happened, and ever since I was able to get that validation of like, okay, this is what I was feeling was accurate, I kind of like dove headfirst into learning about it. I started getting books on the subject. I started going to different classes. I started finding different people that were mediums as well, and just picking their brain and just asking them questions and just being like, hey, look, what does this mean? And how does this work? And what is going on here? And just trying to make heads or tails of all of it. And sure enough, like, God led me on this path of reading for folks. And I feel like I just have to stay right on that train and keep going with it. And I haven't stopped since.
What was that moment for you, Chris? Was there this defining something that made you went, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't normal? I mean, what was it for you, whether you're at Parsonsfield or wherever, when you said something's happening? Was there a moment like that?
Yeah. So like I was telling Julie, it was kind of like, when I was younger, I didn't have a reference point. I didn't have words to describe what a medium or a psychic was, because like nobody in my family talked about that. It wasn't a thing. But I would always I could always say that like I felt when a ghost was around. That was the joke. I'd always say, I feel like there's a ghost in the room, or I feel like there's a ghost in this house, or there's something off about this location. And people would laugh at me and they'd shrug it off. But sure enough, it was validation. And when it really clicked is after Parsonsfield. When I got that validation from that young boy, and I was just like, I don't know, it was just like an epiphany went off, and I was like, holy cow, like this is actually something, like this is for real. Like I need to really study this. I need to really get in depth with this. And like I said, I just haven't stopped ever since.
Yeah. Do you remember, Chris, when you and I met at the Conjuring House?
Yep.
We were on an investigation. I think Toby Hartford had put it together.
Yep.
And you guys were down, and I just happened to score a ticket, and I went, and you were doing these quick little 15-minute readings, and I pulled you aside and I said, Chris, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? I don't know what's going on with me, but I feel like there's something, you know what I mean? And
I remember that.
At the time, I didn't think medium was the thing. I thought that maybe I was psychic, but I wasn't. There was too many other things that had been happening in my life through the years. But I had a defining moment, and I don't know if I ever shared this with you. Of course, Julie knows. And I was sitting home one day, and one of the women that worked with me texted me and said, hey, by the way, somebody came by to see you. I told him you weren't here, you didn't work. And he said, she told him, she says, well, he's not here. And he said, okay, just tell him David stopped by. And I said, that's really odd, because I don't know. Did I ever tell you the story? As I said, I don't know. I don't know a David. I don't know David. And then it really got weird. And this was after you and I had met at the Conjuring House. I was sitting at home. I put together this spirit portal that I wanted to use on investigations. And it was really cool. I was sitting at my house, and all of a sudden I get this voice that came through. And this is about a week later. And Chanel, she's backstage. She's got the clip. Chanel, can you play number 1 for me? Would it be possible? I'm Scott. I'm Scott. What is your name? I'm Scott. Huh?
Wow.
No. Oh, we're back. Okay. Whew. I saw everybody disappear again. I got nervous.
Oh, no.
So that
Well, I actually
happened.
did disappear to get water.
Well, you did, but I saw you move, so it was okay. It's when you
My
get
apologies. I
slow
started
down.
coughing.
So I there was that, and I said to Julie, because I saw her that night. We'd had dinner, we were going on an investigation, and she said to me, "Isn't that the same name as the guy that walked into your shop a week before?" And I thought, that's really odd, and then I started questioning, well, that's really strange. Still, that wasn't much. And then I was on an investigation, and I had the portal, and we were asking questions, and this came through, a week or so later. Chanel, this one's number 2, if you could play that for me.
Can you tell me your name?
It's Matt.
David. Wow. And I mean, that's as clear gets, right?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And then there's one more. Play number 3.
Can you give us a name?
David. And it just kept going on and on. And David was showing up everywhere. He was showing up on investigations. He was showing up on other people's investigations. And I would be watching it online, and they're talking back to me. I mean, it was crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then we were up at Wilson Castle. And at this point, everybody knew who David was, but I didn't really know what was going on. But David was showing up everywhere. So we had gone with this group of people, and she's going to play that for you in a second, but you can hear the reaction of people in the room when he comes through. This is the last one I'm going to play. I won't bore you with any more, but Chanel, if you could play the last one, it's the video number 4.
Are any of you stuck? Do you stay watch over Scott, David?
David? Can you David, are you here for a visit?
Now, that's pretty weird, right? I mean, as someone who investigates, I mean, this doesn't happen, right? So I'm thinking, am I losing my mind, right? That's
So
why
you've got a room full of ghost hunters. People have been doing this for 14, 15 years, getting goosebumps, saying, whoa, what is going on?
What is going on? And, and honestly, that's just a fraction of what was going on. And I was thinking, oh my God, I have to be losing my mind, except I was recording it and other people were hearing it. That's the only thing that saved me from feeling like I was losing my mind, because I could hear it. And anyway, I called this woman that I know, and she's a medium, and she sort of helped identify this. And the rest is history. It was just sort of learning to control it and work with it and it took a while too. The whole confidence thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Really happening? Is this possible that this is really happening?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But it does. And it's not at all what I thought it would be.
No, it really isn't. It's, you see the mediums on TV, and you think it's going to be something to that effect, or maybe, even something different. And then when you're actually doing it, it's a whole nother ball game. It's very, very different. It's very, very, the feeling of it is incredible. When you're really dialed in and you're clicking, the feeling of that is just wild.
It is. And it's very noticeable. You can sit there and say, okay, let's see, there's a woman coming through, but when she's in front of you and she's there, well, do you remember, because I've been to a few of your galleries and I think they're great. We were on the USS Salem. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this, right? Like, I don't get your messages. So you're doing a reading and I don't get your messages. They're not for me to deliver. Right.
Right.
But I'm sitting there watching, and there's this woman in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And she's standing there kind of leaning on her.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. It's like dramatic pause. Okay. We lost you for a second.
Did you lose me again?
Yes, there was a woman in the corner. So if you could start from there.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there's a woman in the corner and she's sort of leaning on the cane and she's got like barrettes in her hair and she may have had oxygen. I can't remember, but she's sort of sitting there watching you and she's going, oh, like kind of like, all right, this is great. Let's move on. Let's move on kind of thing. That was the sense I was getting from her. But I was waiting for you to call on her. I was wondering who she was connected to.
I see.
And then after it wasn't. You didn't call on her. And so I mentioned it to you at the end of the gallery. I said, Chris, there was a woman there, and I think she might have been connected to you because she was just standing there next to you.
Yeah.
And I described her, and you said, I think that was my grandmother.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then she gave me a name, and I said, you know what? She just told me her name is Betty, and you went, that's my grandmother. Her name is Betty.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of cool stuff. When you're dialed in, it's like, wow, that's just unbelievable. And you know what it's like. You do it. You dialed in on Julie a couple of times when we were last year up at Parafest, Maine, and then just past.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes, that was twice, as a matter of fact. There again too. I guess my family had just blabbermouths from the other side. I don't know.
Don't feel bad about that. It's great because it's always funny to me because sometimes there was one gallery reading that I did where I went to the same woman like 6 times.
Wow.
And just everybody wanted to come through for her. And I don't know what it was. I say, okay, all right, now we're going to move on to somebody else. And I say, thank you very much for the spirits that came through. I'm going to leave that love with you. And then sure enough, I'm describing somebody. I have a gentleman coming through. She goes, that's me again.
Almost embarrassed to raise her hand.
That's basically the feeling after you get, after you gave me one reading, I'm kind of like, this is great, and there's a room full of people, and then it's like, oh, I think it's me again. I'm so sorry, people.
But you have no control over it.
No, none whatsoever. It's very interesting. It's not you think that you'd be able to just kind of contact whoever, but it's whoever wants to show up, whoever has that message of love for you at that particular time. It's remarkable. The spirit world is very intelligent and they know exactly what you need.
Chris, I'm just going to ask you, do you think that it's because people in the spirit world know that you need that message at that time? Because my mother almost never comes through. And I was telling Kayla, your wife, on Saturday, when my mother came through, I said, I really needed that because I've been thinking about her the last couple of weeks. And, you always question yourself, question what you've done in life. And I've been thinking, I wish I could have done more. Did I do enough? I really felt like I didn't do enough. And I know intellectually, I did the best that I could at that time. But I think that, as time goes by, I was really questioning. I could have done more, maybe. I think I could have done more. So when that message came through, and the message that you gave me from her was, you did everything you could. She knows you did everything you could. I mean, I just don't see how people think that is coincidence. I really don't. Yeah. I mean, you were there with her.
Yeah. And like you said, it's that knowing of, and the thing is somebody could objectively look at that and say, oh, well, you could pull that out of a hat, but in your heart that I connected with your mom, in your heart that was message that you needed at that particular time, and that's what's most important is that, because someone could, like I said, could objectively look at a reading on the outside and say, oh, well, that seems a little vague, or that seems this or that, or the other thing. But if you're across from somebody and you're making a connection and this quote unquote vague message comes through, if it means something for them, then it's not vague for them. It's very real. It's very impactful. So
Absolutely.
it's a whole different monster when you're actually getting read for, as opposed to getting a reading. But to answer your question,
know what's in your mind. What's in there. Those little things. I mean, I almost never get read. Julie and I went to John Holland, and he picked up on me, and he said, who's the guy that does love? She talked about my grandmother, which she pegged, and then he said, who's the guy with her who has the racing pigeons? Now, my grandfather used to race pigeons back when he was back in the 40s, and nobody knows that. I barely even remember it, but I do know it. I mean, and it's when they give you that little nugget of something that makes you go, because that's way too specific to be able.
I know
to
racing pigeons. I mean, that's how could you get more specific than
How
that?
can
I
you
mean,
get
racing
more
pigeons is
Who
pretty
races pigeons in 2022? Exactly.
exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Or Scott, when you and I were chatting with Maria, and I had said, "Oh, I think that's my mother that's coming through," and Scott said psychically, "Well, give me something to show that it's you." And he looked at me, and Scott looked at me, and he said, "I'm getting ribbon candy." Now, not many people these days even know what ribbon candy is. My mother's idea of Christmas sweet was ribbon candy, and her Christmas table was not full until she could find that box of ribbon candy and put it on the table. I mean, that was her special thing for Christmas. You don't just pull those things out of the air. I mean,
No,
it's too specific.
that's right. And that's when the spirit world is absolutely just, I mean, we're talking with the spirit world. They're communicating with us and they're passing on those messages. And it's those like you said, those little nuggets of information that they're clingers, they're clinchers, I should say. They lock it in for people, and they really are like, yes, that is my loved one beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like, then you know. And I love it when people have those reactions, and I love it when things like that happen in readings, because it's a beautiful thing when when the lights go on and they go, oh, now I know you got him. Now I know that that's my loved one.
That's
you know,
right.
it's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah. And isn't it amazing too? Sometimes you'll get a reading that's not for you. So they know on the other side that if they talk to this person, there's a light shining on that person. If I talk to that person, they know this person who's friends with that person who has a friend whose sister died. And do you know what I mean? Like that message gets brought across, and I don't know how they do it. It's not up for us to know, but they just know. They just know. They don't even have to think. They just put the dots together and say, that's the person. If I talk to that person, it'll get back here. You do not want to hear it.
Yes. Yes, I have. There was a time where a woman's loved one came through, and she absolutely did not want to hear a word of anything. Sorry, my lights went out.
I was wondering what happened. We're having all kinds of technical stuff. Yeah.
That's the spirit world messing with us already. But yeah, that absolutely happened, and she didn't want to hear any word of it. Didn't want to hear from this particular person, didn't want to hear anything that they had to say, and I had to respect that.
Yeah, and
sometimes
it happens. It is, because sometimes, see, they're in a different place than we are. We carry all that baggage with us of this person wronged me or this. When they get on the other side, all they know is that they wronged you, and they want to make amends. They want to say they're sorry, and some people here aren't willing to hear it. Some listen, some don't, and thanks for that question, by the way. Anybody that has questions, feel free to shoot them through. Chanel will put them up on the screen for us, but any questions you have. And just a reminder too, if you're just coming into the show, text the word reading to 833-269-4769. Chris and I are giving away free readings. I'm giving away one, and Chris is giving away a reading. We're going to draw it next week. So text and download the guide to your mediumship reading, and you'll be entered in to win, and we'll pull that next week's show. Yeah. So I know you've been doing quite a bit. You had the gallery reading this weekend in New Hampshire, and we're going, by the way, on Saturday night to the James House.
That's right.
Yeah. Are you coming down? How far are you? How far are you from the
No,
James?
I'm about 2 hours out.
So that's a haul.
Yeah, it's a bit of a haul. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a place.
It's a very unique place. I really enjoyed it. Although the stairs are a little low. I bashed my head off of one of the landings when I was coming up. I was walking up and kaboom! I'm just like, oh, my head. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that from the basement? I don't think I've ever been in the basement.
Kayla actually saw a shadow figure in broad daylight down there, and it touched the back of her hair, and it freaked her right out.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came up the stairs as I was coming into the first floor, and she was just, something touched my hair, and then there was a shadow figure. It's like, oh my God, at 3:00 in the afternoon. That place is just, yeah.
And isn't that the truth, though, that it doesn't matter what time of the day it is? It could be any, I mean, oh, you have to investigate at night. No, you don't. You just have to be in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
I mean, you remember, Julie, the S.K. Pierce in Gardner, Mass, the old Victorian, the big Victorian home. 2 in the
That's a great
afternoon.
place.
We're not even there. We're not even there for an investigation. We're there for something else. We're there for a class. And the spirit comes in, walks around us, shows itself across the ceiling. I mean, it was
literally an amorphous, dark gray, light black thing across the ceiling,
and then right over the chandelier it was gone. Yeah.
It was at 2:00 in the afternoon, so there weren't any lights from cars or anything like that. So the first thing I said to Scott is, "Do you have your recorder with you?" And he said, "I do." And so he pulled that out and he said, "Did we just see you?" And Class A EVP, yes.
That's great.
It was great. It was great.
It's 2 in the afternoon.
2 in the afternoon, and we were there for a dowsing rod and pendulum reading class,
Cool.
which I've been working with dowsing rods for years. So I aced the dowsing rods, but I had to cheat off of Scott's paper because the pendulum just is not my thing. He looked at me and he said, "Are you cheating?" I said, "Yes, I am."
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am.
Yes, I am.
I have to tell you, I'm seeing a pattern here. Julie has a art class and is scrambling to get her homework done because she didn't do it. So I'm starting to see a pattern here with her and how she approaches these things. But it was,
I thought I had more time. I really did. And I don't have a dog to eat my homework. So, I was stuck. I had to do it.
So, I mean, and I think that's what's just so incredible with this stuff that we do. And you and I are on the same wavelength in terms of, there are the there are the mediums who are really centered in the metaphysical. And to a certain degree, we are because of what, the nature of what we do.
Sure.
But we're really out there in the field in these places that, that are haunted. We do paranormal investigations and top of the readings and things like that. Other people, you get like the James Van Prague. I don't know that he's ever done that. Maybe he does, but I don't see that. He's very much into the metaphysical, the meditation, the crystals, that kind of stuff. And so that's the difference between, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different approach. Yeah. I was in Michigan with Julie, I don't know, was that 2 or 3 weeks ago now?
Yeah.
And we saw Chip Coffey and we were talking about Chip Coffey kind of being in the same, I don't want to say, you know what I mean? Like he's in the paranormal. He's got the TV show.
Right. He investigates as well as does readings.
He does. Yeah. But it was interesting because we went to his gallery. Now that was a very, very different kind of gallery. And so what he did was he'd say to the audience, who wants a reading, right? Because his hand goes up and he said, okay, I'm going to let the spirit guide go to the ones. They're going to show me where to go. And he kind of look around the room. Okay, you, who do you want to talk to? When did they die? And then he'd tune in and that was it.
Oh, wow.
It was very different.
Yeah.
It was a very unique way of reading. Yeah.
It is. I don't know. I mean, that's great that it works for him. I mean, for me, I feel like an open channel. It just kind of, they come to me and say, okay, who's, it's almost like survival of the fittest. Whoever's the strongest makes it to the front of the line and you deliver the reading.
Well, and a lot of the times too, there could be a grandmother that's coming through that's giving the strength to her grandson to be able to come through as well. It's like, hey, come with me. I'm going to come through first, but then I'm going to give you the strength to come through afterwards. You know what I mean? So sometimes they'll come through in tandem and give each other that little bit of boost.
Yeah. It's funny. I have a reading coming up and there's been this man. And does that ever happen to you too, where you start seeing them before you have the reading?
Oh, yeah.
And there's a man and a younger person. I'm not gonna say a boy because I think he's an adult, but he's not like an older person. It looks like a grandfather and a grandson, and they've been hanging around, and I'm 99% sure that it's connected with them. So it's really interesting when that happens too. There's a whole, excuse the expression, for lack of a better word, life on the other side.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? They is so much, it's not life the way we see it, but it's life. I mean, they connect, they communicate, however they communicate, they come through, they bring people together. And And even, we were at Madison, said, oh, when a person refuses a reading, how does the spirit react?
Well, you want to cover that one?
Well, I'll tell you, from my own personal experience, I've never had anyone refuse a reading. I'll give what I get, and they'll sit there and go, well, he wasn't very nice in life. But, they've never said, I don't want to hear it. But I really think they come from a very different place. All the baggage of this place is over. They come from a place of love. And if you don't want to hear from them, I really think they don't get angry because they understand. I think that my own personal feeling is that they are their own worst judge at that point. I don't know that there's anybody judging them. I think they're judging themselves because they are so acutely aware of everything they did that caused you to feel the way you feel. It's like every ripple becomes obvious, and all they want to do is come through and make amends. And so, I think that they probably, if you wouldn't talk to them, I think they would just carry it with them. But what do you think?
Well, I've had instances where, like I said earlier, where the person didn't want to hear from the message, and the spirit on the other side is generally pretty respectful. They understand that we have our lives that we have to live, and they don't want to. I don't feel like the spirit world wants to interject or kind of make things worse. So if they come through and they want to heal, it's with the intention to heal. But if the person isn't ready to hear that, then what I've experienced was that they've respectfully backed off and said, oh, okay, like I understand. And this just is what it is. But generally I've found that spirits are very understanding, and they're very kind of, like you said, they're in a place of love. So their wavelength is that of understanding, that of unconditioned, that sort of thing. So I don't feel like there's any adverse reactions on the spirit side when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Chris, I have a question for you. Sure. I know that this has happened with Scott, and he'll go to a reading, and there'll be somebody there trying to come through, and he'll say, I have a lady here or a young woman here, and dark hair, passed before her time. I'm thinking it's a car accident, and it's not for anybody there. And then he goes to another reading. The same person shows up. Again, not for anybody there. And so remember, this happened, Scott. It was about 2 weeks later when you finally found the person whose reading this was for. So is this common, Chris, or has this happened to you?
It has definitely happened to me before. And I think that it is common. I think that as kind of like you said, with the spirits see kind of a light, and they're like drawn to it, So if this individual was like, hey, I see the light, and that light can talk to my loved ones, I'm going to go over there right now, and I'm going to talk to them. And then you go over there, and they're showing themselves to you, and they're presenting themselves in that way. And then it doesn't make sense right off the bat. It's because I feel like they're just too excited. They just want to come through so bad that it's just right then and there. And also time isn't linear in the spirit world.
It's all right now.
Yeah. It's so they're not thinking.
Here is not linear either. A lot of people, unless they've taken a physics class, are not aware that time in our dimension is definitely not linear. Right. I'm sorry. Right. I'm sorry. 30 years at Aero Astro at MIT has done something to me.
I love it. I could talk metaphysics all day. It's great. But cool. They're on a different time frame, and things like that. So they might not know at that particular time that their loved one isn't right there. They might just be so excited to talk to them, and that they see a medium that they could and pass that message through, that they don't really realize that it's not the correct time. So to answer your question, it definitely does happen, and it is common.
Where that happens to me is when I'm doing, let's say like a Paracon or something, and you're doing readings every 15 or 20 minutes. And it happened to me in Maine when we were at the Parafest together, and I would read for this person, then I would read for the next person, and they weren't getting anything. And then I would read for the next person, and the person that was coming through was still there, and it was for them. So you know what I mean? They're just jumping the gun. And that, again, that's just some sort of testament to the fact that there is this conscious intelligence that is beyond this,
Absolutely.
Beyond this dimension that we're living in now, that we exist in now. Exactly.
And I'm in no hurry to leave here and go and visit and tell you about it. But I mean, it does give you a little bit of hope. You know what I mean? That
absolutely
at some point, that will be.
And it's the messages that come through, those really impactful, specific messages that let you know that like there absolutely is more going on than what meets the eye, and there is an afterlife, and that afterlife is love, pure and simple. It's unconditional, and it's a beautiful place. But like you said, Scott, I'm in no rush to get there. But when it's my time someday down the line, I feel like it'll be a nice place to go.
Yeah, just not anytime soon.
No.
A long time from now.
We have stuff to do.
That's
Very
right.
busy.
I got too much. I'm too busy. I can't be dying.
That's right. My calendar is booked.
Yeah, I'm too full. I don't have death on the schedule.
Chris, do you get anything by the way of medical type information? Does that just come to you, or do you not get that at all typically?
Not generally. I don't usually do the medical medium stuff, but there has been times where I've come through where I've been like, like my elbow all of a sudden is killing me. And then the person's like, well, I have tennis elbow. And I'm like, oh, well, there it is. So I think empathically, sometimes I'll pick up on that. But for the most part, I don't predict anything like that. I don't tell people like you may want to get this checked. If the spirit world does bring something up, then I feel like I'm obligated to deliver that message. But generally, no. Medical, I don't usually touch with a 10-foot pole.
I know, I'm kind of the same way, and I can't say I really get anything like that either. I'll never forget once it was the funniest thing. I was at work, and there was a woman that was sitting with one of my coworkers, and she was coming in for a reading that night with me, but she wasn't with me at the moment. She was with her getting her hair cut, and every time as soon as she walked in, I could feel like mouth pain, like tooth pain. And then I'd get closer to her and it would get a little worse and I'd back off. And I looked at her after a while. She knew who I was and she knew she was coming in. And I said, crazy thing. Do you have like something going on with your mouth? Are you having dental work done? Oh yeah, I've got impacted wisdom teeth. They've been killing me. I'm like, all right, that's it. And then after that, it stopped. That was the end of it, But generally speaking, I don't get that kind of stuff. And I don't think I'd want it, to be honest with you. I don't want to feel like I'm getting that kind of thing.
No, and I would hate to have to give somebody a message of like something being detrimental. I would feel terrible. I go into this, try to heal hearts, not hurt them.
Yeah. And what if you're wrong? I mean, because let's face it, this is not an exact science. I mean,
no.
What if you're wrong? I'd hate to make someone worry or make them not worry when they should worry. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even want to go down that road.
I feel like it borders on messing with free will a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. I just don't even pay attention to it. I don't think I think I tune it out, or subconsciously I tune it out because I don't want any part of that. What about animals? And I know that you've all had animals come through on a reading, but do you ever communicate with the animals? Do you get anything like that, like an animal communication?
Yep, I sure do. There's been times where, and I love it when dogs come through because they're just so happy. Their tails are wagging. They're having a great time. And sometimes dogs can give really specific information. I remember there was one time a dog came through and described the urn that they were in and described where they were in the house and described what toy was next to their urn as well. And I was like, that's beautiful because it gave the woman, it was a couple actually. It was a man and a woman. It gave them both a reassurance that their pup had crossed the rainbow bridge and they were okay. So it was a beautiful thing. And it absolutely, I mean, animals are intelligent as well as humans. So yeah, animal communication is definitely a thing.
Does it come through differently than let's say a human spirit?
It does actually. Crazy enough. I mean, I can't begin to describe the feeling because I don't know if I have words to put into that, but it's definitely a different feeling from person to animal. You can feel it. It's as best as way I could say it.
You can tell. Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell. It's almost like it's as if you're meeting that presence in person. It's just without their physical body.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to
more empathic.
What's that?
Is it more empathic?
I think so. Yeah, more of a clairsentient kind of more of a feeling in that way. Yeah.
Interesting. I just want to say we've got about 5 minutes left. So Chris, I want to give you a chance to talk about yourself a little bit. What have you got going on? How can people reach you for a reading? Because I know we said we were going to help people with readings, give them 20% off. If they want to book a reading with you, how can they do that?
So they can hit me right up on facebook.com/psychic medium Christopher. That's the best way to find me. So you could send me a message there anytime, and we can definitely schedule a reading through there.
Perfect.
As far as stuff that I got going on, we got the Hawthorne going on in November. I got right after that, I'm doing another gallery / investigation at a place called the Irish Heritage Center, and that's through AJ's Paranormal. So that's going to be an awesome event. We got Parafest that's coming up.
Where's that, Chris?
Oh, the Irish Heritage Center. That's right in Portland, Maine.
So if people want to get tickets for that, how would they find out? Is that
they would go? That's right on Facebook. I shared it on my page.
Oh, okay,
but they can also go to AJ's Paranormal, and they can find the links through them.
Beautiful.
Yep. Let's see. We got Parafest coming up, which is going to be great. Parafest. I think this is the 6th one.
Yep.
Definitely, if you're in Maine, you want to check that out.
If you're in Maine and you want to check out an amazing Parafest, definitely that's the one to do it. It's going to be incredible. So it's going to be a fun event. I'm going to be doing a gallery event there, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Well, that was our first one up there last year, and we're not going this year, but I'd like to get back there again because it really was a good you and I think it's kind of gone like this, exploded since last year. It seems like you've got a lot more people coming. So you and I are doing the gallery event. People want to get tickets to us. For the show. It's going to be November 3rd at 7 p.m. And you can get tickets at www.scottallen.net. That's ALLAN.net/events. But if you just get to the main page, you'll see events and you can click on it. If you happen to be in the New England area, there are 5 seats left to our investigation of the America Stonehenge with author Julie Griffin. Julie has written books on ghostly photographs, and she catches the most amazing things, and she's going to help lead this investigation with us. That is October 15th. There's only 5 seats left for that. You can also get those on scottallen.net. Don't forget, if you haven't texted the word reading to 833-269-4769. You can do so. It's completely free. There's no obligation. It'll download your guide to mediumship reading, but you'll be entered to win one of 2 free readings. One will be with Chris and one will be with me. And that's going to be next Wednesday. We are going to pull that out. And also 20% off readings between now and next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. So no matter where you're listening, even if you're in the UK and you're catching this, you can still book a reading with Chris or myself, and you'll get 20% off. And then 7 o'clock Eastern next Wednesday, they go back to the regular price. But we want to give you a chance to experience, because I know I've had a reading with Chris. Julie's gotten read by Chris. He's a great magician. He's a great medium. Whatever. Yeah.
Maybe that's my grandfather coming through.
Yeah, right.
Well, my grandfather was a magician, so.
Was he really?
Oh, wow.
He was, yeah.
Professionally? I mean, did he or did he just do it like at home kind of thing?
No, he would just mess with us. He'd be like, "Oh, I got a coin behind your ear," or he'd show us card tricks and things like that. And it'd always blow my mind. Like, how are you doing that?
I know, it's just great. Yeah. My 9-year-old thinks he can do that, but I can see him kind of like holding the coin behind.
Yeah.
Because he's 9, so whatever. Yeah. So those are the high points. That's where we're going to be, and we'd love to see you. Absolutely. Certainly at the Hawthorne event. That's going to be a good time. If you've never had a chance to stay at the Hawthorne Hotel, that's quite a space too. Very haunted.
I'm hoping so. Fingers crossed.
Are you staying there, Chris, that night, or?
Well, hopefully, maybe there'll be some divine intervention, and hopefully that we'll get a room there. But as of right now, I believe it is all booked up. But we're going to try to finagle something.
Great.
I'm going to talk to the events manager tomorrow to see if she can work a little bit of magic for Chris to get a room for him and Kayla.
All right. I just have to say thank you so much for being here, Chris. We only have about 15 seconds left. I want to thank everyone for putting up with all of these technical difficulties, which tends to happen when we are all in the same room. Like we can't even take photos. Have a great Wednesday night, everybody, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Chris. Good night,
welcome.
everyone.
Thank you, guys.
You have been listening to The Paranormal Project with Scott Allen and Julie Finn. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. While you're there, leave us a rating and review so others can find out about the show. Stay haunted and go out there and explore the paranormal.